Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and set this slideshow up to go. And we're going to talk about some really cool pieces of information. The question is, why do people commit fraud? And there has been a number of criminologists, sociologists, accountants, investigators. They've tried to figure out what's going on here. Why is this happening? Why does it keep happening? Fraud has been going on since the beginning of time. In one way or the other, they may have done it in different ways, but it's been going on for a while. And I don't ever see it stopping. So let's find out what this chapter is going to say. Okay, so we're going to talk about the types of people who commit fraud. We're going to explain why people commit fraud, which we can't do it in one chapter, trust me. We're going to talk about the fraud triangle, the fraud scale. There's a couple of other ones out there. Along with the fraud triangle comes the fraud diamond. You got the fraud scale, you got the mice theory, you got score theory, you got white collar crime. There's a ton of different types of fraud theory out there, all trying to explain the whys. Why do people do it? My son is just screaming. He must have heard me say why. And now he's screaming, why, mommy, why? Okay, anyhow, he's 17. What do you expect? So we're going to talk about pressure, opportunity, and rationalization, which is the 3 points of the fraud triangle. We're going to talk about how people become they recruit people into their web of fraud. Research does show that anybody can. Okay, so here they're talking about who commits fraud. Well, who does? It could theoretically be anybody on the street who commits fraud. Under the right circumstances, it could create an opportunity or create a situation where anybody could commit fraud. The perpetrators usually can't be distinguished from other people, and that is so very true. Demographics, psychological characteristics, that doesn't really play a factor. So they talk about most employees, customers, vendors, business associates, and partners can fit the profile of fraud perpetrators and are capable of committing fraud. I guess. I'm not going to say one way or the other because I have my own opinions about this. And mine are a little bit different, even though Albright, who is the man who wrote the textbook, I believe I met him one time when I went up to Washington, D.C. on a fraud conference. He has a long history of experience in fraud in terms of research. I disagree because I don't think that everyone can commit fraud, or I don't think that is totally necessary. I mean, you can put me in a situation and I can look at it and let's go fraud triangle. There may be the opportunity, pressure, and rationalization all there, but that doesn't mean I'm going to take advantage of the situation. So that takes us into the fraud diamond, which expands upon that capability, which I do think is really, really, really important in fraud research. I think you really need to focus in on that capability. It is impossible to predict in advance which employees, vendors, clients, and customers will become dishonest. However, you can create internal controls and you can reduce the number of opportunities where someone has the ability to commit fraud. The only thing you can control is control itself. No, I'm sorry. A song just popped into my head where it's called, the band's called Living Color, and they have different pieces of important leaders from our past, and the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. And that just came into my head because I've been listening to that song lately. Anyhow, you guys don't need to know that. Again, only thing that a business can control is the opportunity. You must focus in on that opportunity reduce that, continue to watch for any opportunities in the future, reduce those. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. That's my personal opinion. Okay. So here we go. Profiles of fraud perpetrators. Whatever. I not quite. I don't quite agree with this part, but I'll give you guys some pieces of information. So we all know I love to do research. I swear, the more education I get, the more education I want. It's kind of like an addiction. I love learning. I wish it was that way when I was in high school. My grades would have been better and I could have gotten scholarships to anywhere. But now, as I'm older and more experienced, more educated, I just want more and more information. I just thrive and just want that. And anyhow, so one of the articles I read stated that there's two types of characters that you want to pay attention to, and that's sociopaths and psychopaths. One spelled with an S, the other spelled with a PS. Okay. Sociopaths are created. They happen because of their environment. Something happens, there might be some type of trauma. They could also have brain lesions. I know I'm going into the Big Bang Theory, and I want to run around screaming, brain lesions, brain lesions. But anyhow, you get the gist. And a psychopath is actually born. Again, now they do have brain lesions. They're born with these brain lesions, and there are researchers that believe this may be the piece to understanding why they don't have empathy and they can turn it off and on their emotions. So just something for you guys to think about. Okay, that fraud triangle, 3 elements of the fraud triangle. So first, you have the white collar crime. Then you have the fraud triangle. You go into the fraud diamond, and then you go into mice, and you can go into score. Those are all different fraud theories. Mice and score are acronyms. I believe I have a video in your modules that explain those different fraud theories. Pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. You can put them anywhere on the triangle just as long as they're on the points. Again, the only thing that a company can control is opportunity. I can't control the financial pressure on a person. I don't know what's going on in their private lives. I can't control the way they rationalize, but I can eliminate opportunities where it's going to be difficult to steal. So there it is. Now, what we can do here is we can add in another triangle on the bottom, and at that point put in capability, and that gives us the fraud diamond. My preference is the fraud diamond because, just because everything's there doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to steal from you or somebody's going to steal from you. The person has to have the capability to steal. That's my opinion. Okay, heat, oxygen, fuel, boom, fire. Okay, this is the fraud scale. And again, as situational pressures, they excuse me, as they become more increased, it tips the scale into high fraud. Same thing with opportunities. And here we go. We got personal integrity on the very bottom. So if you have a low personal integrity, you've got that capability. And so this is a way to try to detect fraud. I think it's a little confusing. It's just not my cup of tea in terms of the fraud theories. It's just not my, it's just not my favorite. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Okay, so the mice theory: money, ideology, environment, and coercion. That's what that mice, money, ideology, coercion, and I believe it's either ethics or environment. That is the acronym. SCORE. The SCORE, again, very similar to the mice theory. They're talking about the opportunity, they're talking about ethics, they're talking about the risk assessments, the capabilities. That's where those theories. So basically, they're kind of expanding upon the fraud triangle and the fraud diamond. So here is pressure. Now this is when I should probably play David Bowie's "Under Pressure." Dun 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 dun. I don't know. My son loves to play that song. It really grinds my brain when I hear that song. Any type of financial pressure. It could be financial, it could be spouse, it could be the fact that your teacher loves Michael Kors purses and loves to go out and buy brand names. That could be a pressure. There's so many different ways people can feel pressure. I would like to also say healthcare. That's a big one right there. Okay, individual perpetrators. Of course, greed, living beyond one's means. You can watch for this, by the way. Pay attention to how your employees behave. Most of you probably have heard me talk about the San Francisco Giants payroll supervisor who was living way beyond her means. She was taking out all kinds of loans, buying homes, so on and so forth. So pay attention. I think the textbook says change in lifestyle without having won the lottery. That's a good rule of thumb to take into consideration. Okay, when management fraud occurs, usually that's from bullying. So Richard Scrooge was a big, old, huge bully, and he was basically surrounding himself. He would eliminate his staff who knew what they were doing and knew right from wrong, and he would surround himself with staff who were pliable to his wants in terms of the financial statements or didn't know any better. And that is how he was able to have so much fraud committed and so much billions of dollars lost in the stock market with Health South. Companies overstate assets on the balance sheet, net income on the income statement. Yeah, happens all the time. Now, again, if you are a publicly traded corporation and you knowingly do that, you can be tried under Sarbanes-Oxley Act. And if you're found guilty, you may face a fine, you may go to prison, something's going to happen. Some causes of pressure, poor cash position. I'm going to say, hey, wanting to have your stock price increase in order to please the investors, not meeting forecasted gains that you came in and you said, well, this quarter's forecast, we said it's going to be this, this amount. So I really think most of the fraud committed by the managers, it's not necessarily they're benefiting individually. They're actually benefiting by keeping the company looking good and continuing to enjoy their nice, pretty paycheck. And they may feel some type of pressure to meet those financial goals, but they don't have the resources to do it. And so here's some, information. Again, I'm going to go with the increasing the assets, inflating revenue, decreasing expenses, recognizing revenue before it's been earned, or creating, instead of recognizing your expenses when they incur, you create a situation where you spread it out into the future, and that shouldn't be happening. So those are some of the examples that I particularly hear about. And much of it also comes from insider trading as well. So pay attention to that insider trading. You'll see that happen quite a bit. Okay, motivation. Okay, here's our vices. Gambling, drugs, alcohol, and having relationships outside of your marriage. Okay, sure. I'm gonna, you know, I always have a rule, and I do not loan money to people. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've had a coworker who I know for a fact is either drinking way too much or is using drugs, and before the end of the pay period hits again, they're asking to borrow money from everybody. And I was always no, no, no. And my rule is do not loan money if you can't afford to lose it. The easier way to think about it is if you're going to give money, think of it as a gift. Do not think of it as a loan, because when it's not paid back, you're going to become very upset. So if you just consider it in your head a gift, then you're not going to be upset, and you're not going to lose that friendship, that relationship, whatever it may be. Like my children, they love to borrow money from mom, but I don't ever look at it as I will be paid back, because I'm mom, and moms are not paid back. So if I look at it that way, I don't hold grudges against my children. Work-related pressures, getting little recognition for job performance, job dissatisfaction, fearing losing one's job, being overlooked, and feeling underpaid. Other pressures could be family, challenge to beat the system. Now, rarely are you going to find that person, but there are people who you go and do your best to eliminate all the opportunities. And because they are that sociopath, that psychopath, and if they're really up there in that spectrum, they could have this tendency to feel like it's a game to steal from you. Ah, I see, you found my loophole. You know what? But I'm smarter than you. I'll create another loophole. So you may have that happen. So just kind of pay attention. I'm not saying everybody out there is a sociopath or a psychopath, but I do think you should understand there are people out there, and they may be living around you, and they may have learned how to control their behaviors. And that's fine. And if they don't have the capability to commit fraud, then yeah, everything is great. Just because they may lack some empathy and the ability to understand other people's feelings, everybody's different. But pay attention. That's my point, is pay attention. Okay, opportunity, lack of internal controls, inability to judge quality of performance, failure to discipline fraud perpetrators, lack of access to information or asymmetrical information, ignorance, apathy, or incapacity, lack of an audit trail. One of these days, when I was up in Seattle and I was attending that fraud conference, a number of people will write, information about how to do an audit. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody write up instructions on how to run your audit, meaning I'm the one who's being audited. And how do I run that audit? What makes a successful audit? I've shared my I've shared my level of expertise. I've been audited more times than I have toes. I'm very familiar with audits, and I have a methodology that I focus in on when I know I'm getting ready for an audit, and I prepare things in such a way so the auditor, I'm handing him him or her the information before they've even asked for it. Before they even know they need it, I'm giving it to them. I'm providing every third-party piece of evidence I possibly can. One time I even had everything in notebooks, and so I just handed them a bunch of notebooks with all my evidence. And I don't even think they came over and talked to me, and I'm the one that is in need of having the questions asked. So I've got this down to a science, and so one of these days maybe I'll do it. But that audit trail is so important. one of the things that we did up at the conference was they gave us this sheet, and you're gonna actually see a situation very similar in one of my little end of the unit projects, where we had a narrative and we had to determine what weak points this company had in terms of internal control. And one of them was not having certain documentations or keeping certain pieces of information for the auditors, so that people could go in behind you and see what the situation was, what the economic activity was, without having to run around and recreate the evidence. I was trying to think of something funny to say, but I'm just not that funny tonight. Okay, internal controls that prevent and or detect the control environment. If you have management who emphasizes the need for ethical behavior, having internal controls, following those internal controls, if they have that attitude, that organizational culture, that is important, that's going to trickle down to your subordinates, and it's going to set up a very nice organizational culture where it's less likely to have fraud. Then you come over here, management's role and example. Again, same thing. The communication. Oh my gosh. Communication. At a previous, or at an employer, things were happening, okay? Decisions were being made, but nobody understood why the decisions were being made. And we thought we were going to Avenue B, and then all of a sudden we turn around and look, and everybody's up on Avenue A. And we're like, what's going on here? And nobody knew what was going on because management wasn't communicating. So what do? We huddle, I like to say it, I'm hiding out in dark corners and dark alleys. And, we're gossiping, talking tales, or spinning yarns, whatever you want to call it. And so if I don't know, and if management's not communicating to me what's happening, and they don't say, hey, don't worry about it. We went to Avenue A because there's a bunch of potholes on Avenue B, and we don't want to get all wrapped up in that. So we moved it over to Avenue A. If they don't communicate that with me, I'm going to wonder what's going on Avenue B. And I'm going to say, why are they trying to hide from Avenue B? And so then I'm going to talk to my friend over here, my coworker, and we're going to start theorizing. And then we're going to bring somebody else in it. And then eventually there's going to be all kinds of rumors. And maybe none of them are true. But management can stop that right in its tracks by communicating. Clear organizational structure, an effective whistleblower program. Whistleblower program. If you go onto the SEC website, you will find that some of these whistleblowers end up, once the case is all said and done, make a lot of money. They're not out there looking to make this money, but they're being rewarded by being ethical, hoping that other people in the same situation at different companies probably will see that and understand there really is a need to whistleblow if you see something that's happening that's wrong. Now, I was at that conference, and we listened to two different whistleblowers, and they were in different countries. One, I think he might have been an American citizen, but he was in another country, and he was locked up for a number of years because he was whistleblowing, but the government or whoever the powers that be didn't want to hear it, and so they locked him up to hide him away. And another woman was faced, she was talking about her experience again in another country, and she faced quite a bit of backlash, especially since she was a woman in a male-dominated country, and she felt that retribution that we're not supposed to see with whistleblowers, but she was strong enough and she kept saying, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Okay, so you got an internal audit here, you got information and communication, and then here's some of the control activities: physical safeguards, documents, records, independent checks, system of authorizations, segregation of duties or dual custody. a lot of times you may not have enough people or funds to create a bunch of people in accounting, so you'll need to do dual custody. So somebody does the work and the other person double checks it and signs off. Always keep your human resources separate from your payroll. Human resources should be the only ones going in there and creating a new employee or terminating a new employee or an old employee. They should be the only ones hiring and terminating those employees in and out of the system. Human resources should be the only ones going in and changing pay. I have seen a situation where, and it was completely by accident. There was no fraud. It was just a mistake. And this person, because they hadn't thought about this yet, went in and this person was getting a raise. Well, they got the numbers flipped around or something. And this person ended up getting a raise that was like 3 times the amount that they should have. And they never said anything. I don't know about you guys, but I do check my payroll. I watch it. I'm sorry. It's my money. I want to know what's going on with it. And this woman who benefited from the mistake, as soon as they found out, she quit the company and was never seen again. Now, did they try to get the money back from her? Yeah, they did. They tried to sue because no matter what, a person cannot benefit from somebody's mistake. And that was a big, huge mistake. And they knew it was a mistake because they knew they shouldn't be making, let's say the raise was $2 an hour. And they got, instead of $2, they got $6. You know, when you look at your paycheck, you're expecting so much money, and then you got this much money, and you look at your hourly rate, you know. So again, having all the summary of the controls that prevent or detect fraud, control environment, accounting system, and of course, your control activities or procedures that prevent and detect fraudulent behavior. I was going to go, well, I am going to go up to the SEC website. I've seen some people ask some questions, and I wanted to address them. Okay, so in terms of, now, you can get a certificate in bookkeeping, a certificate in accounting. Many of you are probably going to be doing that. And in fact, if you're getting an associate's in accounting, you might as well just sign up for the bookkeeping certificate and the accounting certificate because it just adds. Now, there was questions in regards to like the certified public accountant, the certified management accountant, certified internal auditor, certified forensic accountant, the certified fraud examiner. It's not, those certifications are given by a professional organization. And what that professional organization is doing is they're vouching, saying, hey, these people live up to this standard, and they've met these certain standards to be considered an expert in this field. So that's what that certification is doing for you. Certified Public Accountant is controlled by the ASCPA, American Society of Certified Public Accountants. And then we have AICPA, which is here in Arizona. It's just like a subdivision of the ASCPA. So they control how you can get a CPA. Now, some people have made some comments, and I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to kind of get down to the nitty-gritty. To be a CPA, you have to have 180 credit hours, okay, 180. To get a bachelor's degree, you need 120. To get a master's degree, you need between, I'm going to say 150 and 180 credit hours. Depends on what you're doing. So it's easier to go and get a master's in accounting and then test for the CPA than it is to get 2 different bachelor's degrees and have enough credit hours to sit for the CPA. And so we call it sitting for the CPA, which means sitting for the CPA exam. Now, one, you're going to pay my dog is whining at me because he wants the chair, and the other dog is in the chair, and so he's trying to whine at her and bully her out of the chair. So where did I go? So basically, this organization is providing this testing services. Oh yeah, it's very expensive. We're talking thousands of dollars. Okay, it's like 900 and something to take the test. Last time I checked, but then before you go take the test, it's optimal that you go and get their study guides, which again, thousands and thousands of dollars. You don't have to take, there's 4 parts to the CPA, 4 parts to the certified management accountant. You don't have to take them all in one setting. However, you have to have them done within a certain time period of each other. And you have to pass all 4 areas. If you flunk one, you can go back in and focus in on that one area until you pass it. And you've got so much time to do that. So becoming a certified public accountant really focuses in a lot on management of income, personal income. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be working with companies. You're going to be working with individual people, lots of tax preparations. That's why I'm not a CPA fan. It's not something I would want to do. I don't like that. There's one student in the class that, and he knows who he is, who I think would do really well at that, but I don't think that's really where he wants to go. But I think he could really think through and look at a big picture and see that, and be really good at becoming a CPA. Certified management accountant needs 120 hours of educational credits from a accredited university college. So 120 credit hours, you sit for the CMA, again, thousands of dollars. So the Institute of Management Accountants manages that certification. They will, and it's different. So if you've been through 212 already, it's a different type of accounting, and it's focusing in on those revenues and expenses and trying to make more money. It's all about internal. If you like that, then that's where you want to go. Certified forensic accountant. That's la creme de la creme. And basically what that is, it's a CPA who also has so much experience in education and expertise at a certain level to become a forensic accountant. They are experts. Now, I sat next to one time when I was up in DC at a conference, and this man, we were just talking, and he's just telling me how he travels all over the world. He only works a couple weeks out of the month because that's all he needs to, and he lives in I got this from the discussion. He lives in an expensive home back east, somewhere on the coast. Only working 2 weeks out of the month, maybe. He makes that much money to travel all the time, all around the world, by being a certified forensic accountant. They make a whole lot of money. A whole lot of money if you are in private practice. I do have a video up there that has little blips of the certified forensic accountant that came in and testified on behalf of Johnny Depp in his trial. So you can kind of watch that and you can kind of see what they're doing there. He's testifying, and you would have to become a court expert. Let's see, I hit the certified internal auditor. That's basically self-explanatory. Again, all these certifications are coming from professional organizations that give those certifications to say, hey, these people have the education, they have the experience and the expertise, and we know that because they passed all of the criteria we have, which they do background checks, and you have to pass the test, and you have to have so many years of this, so many credits of that, so on and so forth. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention there. Okay, let's see, and then I'm going to head over to the 100, only on 16. Man, I'm just going to go to town today, aren't I? Okay, now you guys can see what I like to play. Okay, sec.gov. Okay, so if you really want to, you can come up here and you can look at these press releases, and you are going to be able to see what's happened. Okay, here's one. Okay, so they're talking about market data plans. Citigroup. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, Archipelago. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. I'm just having fun. Okay, you can see there's all kinds. I'm looking for up. SEC awards whistleblower more than $18 million. So I did want to point that out because, let's see, who was that? They're not going to release the name. Okay, payments are made out of, okay, whistleblowers continue to play. Okay, so this must be a banking institution. Okay, yeah, let's look at the order and see if we can find out. They might not have it up here because they might be trying to protect the identity of the whistleblower. I'm looking for the company. Let's see. I'm looking for what they did. Okay, claimant one. Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. But you can go up and you can see that some of these whistleblowers are making a whole lot of money, and it's got to be publicly traded corporations. Okay, come out of here. And let's see. Nope, you guys don't want government accounting. Let's go ahead from current slide. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Here is an acronym: separation of duties, authorization, physical controls, independent checks, documents and records. Two parts of the acronym. First three activities are controlled activities. Last two, the IDs, are independent checks and are documents and records. Documents and records, best if it's third party, meaning that it's not something you created in-house. Okay, so here's internal control structures. You can kind of see this. Pay attention because that may be what is on your questions. Judging quality of performance. So yeah, looking at hiring lawyers, doctor, dentist, accountant, an engineer, or not a mechanic. I'm gonna tell you right now, my daughter, she lives in Kansas. Everybody knows she lives in Kansas. She just bought some tires for her car. Well, one of them is already going flat because it's missing the valve. One, she can't even find the valve because I think they put it on backwards. And then the other one lost its valve. So basically, somebody messed up when they were putting her tires on. I don't know. So that's really easy to see poor quality of performance because they really messed it up, and my daughter has had quite a few flat tires because of it. My food, I can tell you. When I go out to a restaurant and I'm not happy about my food, I'm not happy. Funny thing is, if you work at Pizza Hut, I'm sorry. When I go to Kansas, in Beloit, which is up near a big, huge lake called Wakanda, I don't know if the comic book was named after the lake or the lake was named after the comic books. It's called Wakanda. So we always go to Beloit to get pizza from a Pizza Hut. And I'm not a Pizza Hut person. It's like, I think it's gross. But this Pizza Hut makes the best pizzas I've ever had. They have specialized salads. They got all kinds of things we don't have here in Yuma. They got a taco pizza. I always get their taco pizza because it's absolutely delicious. Anyhow, I'm just saying. We were driving through Salina, and I was trading off my child. Well, actually, my daughter was giving me back my son, and I was giving my daughter back her two children. And we went to a Japanese restaurant. Some of the best food I've ever had. So what do? I go and I talk them up on Yelp or whatever review rating system they have. so I can say how wonderful they are. But then the same thing happens over here when you have a defective product. Why do I have a defective product? Is it because the person's not trained, or are they doing something and kind of cutting some of the processes so they can save time or save money and keep it for themselves? So just kind of something you guys want to think about. Though I do love my food. Okay. Failure to discipline fraud perpetrators. Oh my gosh. If I were you and you find fraud in your company, file charges against that person. More than likely, that person has committed fraud before, stolen money from somebody before, or will in the future if you do not prosecute them. I was in a situation one time, and it was kind of a bunch of drama. And I didn't know about the drama, and I was pulled into there's drama. I found out that in the accounting department, this one person was hired, even though they had an extensive amount of criminal violations due to choosing to go down the wrong path because of a habit. Okay, I'm trying to keep it very vague. And I think it was check fraud, lots and lots of check fraud and theft. And it was because of a habit. So somebody said something to me about, okay, and they were in the accounting department. And they said, well, everybody deserves a second chance. And I said, no. They said, you wouldn't hire her if you knew. I said, no, I would have never hired her. I said, I like her. I think she's doing a fine job, and I'm glad this person has turned her life around. But no, I would never have given them the second chance to be hired in an accounting department. You're just taking too many chances. That's like me, seeing, I go to the beach one day and I see like a bunch of sharks out there, and they're all like chomping down on people and whatnot. And me going back the next day, still seeing the sharks out there and saying, oh, they're all full. They're not going to eat me. Yeah, they are. They're going to eat me. Okay, we all know sharks don't eat people. They just kill them. Or as I tell my friends, they're just tasting you to see if they like you. And most of the time they don't. But why risk it? Why risk it? So when I'm looking at hiring people, I'm looking at that background. I'm looking for criminal behavior, because if I see some of it, there's a chance you could relapse. And it's my duty to protect, safeguard that company. And I'm sorry, you may be the best person in the world, but your past will come back to haunt you. So again, I'm going to tell you, go in and prosecute those individuals. If I don't see it, or it doesn't come up on a background check, I may think this is a good person to hire with lots and lots of experience. But then I find out that they embezzled $100,000 from a previous employer, and they just wanted them out the door to get rid of them and to make them go away instead of prosecuting them. So it's just best to prosecute these people. You're thinking about in the future and saving another person, another business, from facing what this other person did. And I'll give you an example. And this one comes from Yuma. So there was this lady, and she worked for okay, this is when child support didn't go through a clearinghouse. So this is at least 30, 40 years ago. And she was working for the county, and she was accepting child support payments. That's because the county did that, from the non-custodial parent. She was pocketing the money. They found out, and they terminated her. And I think she may have maybe some minor criminal charges against her, but not a whole lot. Then that person went to a board of one of these youth sporting leagues here in Yuma. And I'm trying to be vague, but if you really wanted to, you could go look her up on the internet. And so she became the treasurer. Nobody knew that she was a big fraudster, and she ended up embezzling quite a bit of money from them. Now, again, she faced some criminal charges. I don't think she got any time. I do think she had to pay, and she had probation. Then, about 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, she submitted falsified documents to a government agency to obtain utility services. And they ended up catching her. Third time's a charm, right? And so this time she actually went to prison. So you guys can go look her up if you want to. You just look, you've got the keywords there. You can find her on the internet. So that's a case. That's third times, just over and over and over and over again. And people who don't learn their lessons or who are not held accountable will commit more fraud in the future. Okay. So, John Doe's employment and fraud history. So you got 10 months, 2 years, 1 year, accountant, controller and CFO. You know why it's so big? Is because theirs is made up in bonuses. I think the median loss is $115,000 to $130,000 a year. Okay. It's because they're snaky. Okay, they lack access. Well, that's because nobody's double checking. You have to double check. You have to look for those ghost employees. You need to watch these vendors and make sure that somebody isn't faking a vendor. That's why you keep your human resources separate, the ghost employees, and you keep your purchasing separate. You keep your asset control separate from accounting. All of that needs to be separate. So you have that double check in place. Ignorance, apathy, or incapacity. Let's see. Pyramid scams, internet fraud, phone. Yeah, somebody keeps wanting to sell me a piano. I keep getting these crazy letters, or and this is email, and I get these crazy letters from the president of the college saying, hey, you got a minute? I need you to do this. Okay, it's not him. And I know it's not him, and I just laugh. I got one saying somebody was sharing a file with me, and I'm like, boop, that's going to be deleted. I don't know who that person is. Because if you open up that file, potentially that you can download some type of virus, people can get in, hack your computer systems, and steal from you. Now, I will share something kind of personal. Let me double check. Okay, I think it's still going. So this is my personal information. And I'll share it because I think it's important to always pay attention to your own finances. So I have what's called a high deductible health savings account. Okay, my insurance plan has a high deductible on it. So what I have to do is I have to contribute to a health savings plan every payroll period, and my employer also contributes to that plan. So potentially I have a bunch of money in my health savings plan. About 4 years ago, right when we were having some we as in the college were having some problems with, and I don't even know what they were because it didn't affect me, so I didn't need to know, with the administrator of the current health, or of the previous health savings plan. And so they were getting ready to move to another one, so they found a bigger, better one. So yay, all of that. That's fun, dandy, nice. Well, during that transition, somehow somebody got into my information. I don't know how there's no way they could have had my password, because the only time I ever access it is from AWC, and they've got sufficient controls in place to protect me against phishing attempts and whatnot. So they changed my email address, changed my mailing address, changed as much stuff as they could about me so that I wouldn't know, changed my password, went in and cut 2 very large checks to themselves. I almost lost about $4,000. I could tell, because I'm not stupid, that the fraud came within the company. So what happened is, so I caught the fraud on the day it started happening. And I called them up, and this previous company, and I said, look, stop that check. Stop that check. That's not me. Somebody hacked my account, and they're cutting checks to themselves and paying themselves on those prepaid Visa cards. And we got it all stopped. I got the email. It was shut down. Everything else, the money was going to be put back in my account. The next day, somebody went back into my account, overrode what we had previously done, and then cut those checks and sent them out. That could only be done from within the company. So it happens, okay? I ended up getting my money back, but that was happening within that company, and that company basically, I told them, you guys need to give me my money back. This is a fraud that's committed from within your company. And and they came and basically told me I didn't know what I was talking about. Too bad, so sad, wish I had. Anywho, pay attention. Watch this. If you have it, they will try to steal it. Okay. Keep going. Okay, there we go. Here's the Nigerian. We all know what the Nigerian scam letter is. I had a student from Nigeria, and I said, what do you think about this? And he said, well, we all know what's going on, but there's really nothing we can do about it. Okay. Lack of an audit trail. If I can't find the information, like I said, when you lose all your evidence, how do you know what's real and what's not? That's about all I'm going to say there. Rationalization. I'll pay it back. Nobody will get hurt. I deserve it. They're not paying me enough. Okay. All of that neat stuff. Fraud recruitment happens. The lady from, San Francisco Giants, the payroll administrator, payroll supervisor, she actually was in cahoots with her employees, her subordinates, because she was buying them stuff and doing things for them that they wouldn't have got, any other way. And so basically she was buying their silence. But there are times where you may have a fraud where you got more than one person involved. One example could be, I go out to a vendor and I say, and he's my buddy, okay? So I tell my buddy, hey, I'm going to order exclusively from you, but you're going to jack the price up. So let's say that instead of me paying $1 for copy paper or ream, we're going to pay $2. And you take 50 cents and I'll take the other 50 cents. There you go. Power, big deal. There we go. They're talking about the 5 types of power. And you guys can read those and have it defined. Now, right here, when you have a whistleblower, one of the reasons why whistleblowing is so rare is because people are afraid of this. There have been examples, in fact, quite a few number of examples of retribution, because you've got this whistleblower, they go and they say, hey, this is wrong. And then their fellow coworkers, they start bullying them. The managers start bullying them because they've been found out, and now their job's at risk. So it can become quite a problem. Okay, so you can read that on your own. How others, okay, and I'm going to tell you, if I'm a fraudster, I would not get other people involved with me. I would keep everything within myself, because the more people who know, the more likely I'm going to get to be found out. But that's just me, and that's just me telling you guys kind of the way to, some of the things you want to think about in terms of analyzing your employees. And there was one other question I wanted to answer, and it had to do, I think it had to do with, I'll do it on the next video. I'll find it and I will answer it. I think it was in the discussion questions. It was a comment that I wanted to respond to for everybody, because I think it was a really cool comment, and I wanted to answer the why. So we've got chapter 2 done. Let's get to chapter 3, and let's have some fraud fun. And yeah, We'll have some fun and fraud. I'm sorry it was an hour long.